Okay, welcome back. I want to look at CSS pie charts, which might not be a very much requested thing, but they are a thing that are now much simpler to do. They are briefly mentioned in Lee Veroux's CSS Secrets book, but with quite a lot of hacks and workarounds. It's this thing of making a box that would sort of have an angular tilt and would kind of sit over there because we didn't have a gradient that would go in a circle. Unlike a linear gradient, you fade one color to the other. I'll do that quickly. Go background linear gradient. Um, White, black. So that unlike this linear gradient, which fades one color to new color, we now have such a thing as a conic gradient, which means that the color will start at the top and will kind of go in a 360 direction to fade between colors. So I suppose anyone used to Mac loading, you get that color wheel. Or lots of programs which select colors are often from a color wheel. You can now basically create that by making your own stops and your own color settings, which now makes the idea of a pie chart super simple. So a bar chart's always been really straightforward in CSS. You just make boxes and you line them up with labels. Obviously, anything complicated, you'd want to use your 3JS and some big thing with all the settings. But as a simple, just some sort of page display, you want to do a quick pie chart. In the past, it was more hassle than it was worth. Whereas now you could probably have a crack at it with a simple conic gradient. Okay, let's have a look at this. So the thing is, I'll change white to like yellow just so it's easy. By default, it will kind of transition quite evenly. Any design program we've worked with where it lets you build your own gradients, sometimes you have sliders which let you set like where you want the color stops to come from. So on here you could set like 40%, and it's sort of saying that the yellow will end a lot sooner and then the blacks take over. If you were to set it to 0, you're basically saying like the immediately the black should start fading in, and you're basically pushing that slider all the way to the end. However, if I set the yellow here to be 50% and the black to be 0, you're basically saying that the yellow will go halfway and then the black will take a short stop immediately afterwards, because it leaves no room for any fading, any gradient over, and you create a complete block. If we add a border radius of 100% perfect circle, now you've got something that looks quite pie charty. And I can go 60, 70, 80. So you see, I can just give it a percentage number out of 100. It will fill the pie chart as needed, and it will complete that lovely conic gradient as needed. Fantastic. Okay, so here's the thing about the practicality of these pie charts though. In realistic terms, you'd want to display multiples of them. Say you were trying to present some basic ideas of maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they obviously had different percentages to show different things. How would you actually go about achieving that? You could make your basic CSS for the pie chart, and then you could make a class for each percentage. So you could make like in here you could make a class, pie percent dash 67, and then later on, if like that changes, you change it to like percent 69, and you'd have to keep matching your percentage to the thing. That's not ideal. I mean, what you ideally want is that you can make 3 and then you can just set like a number on them like that, and it doesn't matter what number you change, the CSS will just know how to change. Again, something that would for a long time be basically impossible to do. You'd have to just make 100 different CSS classes that just match that value. However, using a CSS variable which you can set inline on the element, we could do that now. We can make all the CSS in one place, and then just scoped CSS variable tell us exactly how to render that value. So let's try and do that. So on the element, I'm going to set a style. An inline style tag, it's not ideal, but if you use a data attribute, that will be read as text. We kind of need to pass it a number. I'm going to add a dash dash percent. This one can be 65% for no real reason, just that's a number that I thought of. And then we'll add some others for the others. So one will be 35, and this one will be 82, high percent. Now here in the conic gradient for this number, where we're setting 80%, we can just swap that out with a variable, which is the percent, which is fed to them. Boom. Let's just shrink those down a little, and then add a little bit of margin. There we go. So this is just another example of like amazing features that have come down the road in recent years that even like 4 or 5 years ago, making a pie chart in CSS would have involved all kind of workarounds with pseudo elements sitting on top of things and masks to sort of make things give the appearance. Now you are making something kind of quite clean. You make a circle and you give it a simple gradient with a cutoff point. You give it a flat number. And actually implementing this would be really straightforward because you could just pass it a value and it would just know how to update itself at the right percentages. You could make quite a clean visualization without having to pull in a big charting library. Again, it depends on the scale of what you're trying to build, you know. Anyway, that's just a little fun one. I thought it was quite cool. Let me know what you think in the comments, and like, and please do subscribe. There's more stuff coming down the road. Cheers.